Make a felt Christmas decoration place setting with us. Hi, welcome back to Bride Society. Halloween is over, which means we're well into our festive DIYs, and we're kicking off with this Christmas decoration place setting, perfect for your either Christmas table or if you're having a Christmas wedding, perfect as a place setting that your guests can then put on their Christmas tree afterwards. So for this DIY, you'll need the following. We'll list everything in the description box below, but you will need some felt. We're doing a wreath, so we're using green and white. A template just out of cards, so you can draw a shape that you want, then cut out. Some scissors. We're stitching ours, so a needle and some thread. You could also hot glue gun, some stuffing, the ribbon to tie to the tree, and any embellishments. So we've got a mix of ones that you can glue on or ones you can stitch on. So to start, we have just drawn a rough wreath shape on a piece of card, and now we're going to transfer that onto our felt. So just draw around your template with a pen, and you'll need 2 wreaths for each decoration, so you need to draw for each one, draw around it twice. Now, using a sharp pair of scissors, you can cut those out to get to the middle of the wreath, to cut out your hole. If you gently fold the piece of felt in half and do a snip with your scissors, you can use that to cut out the middle part of each one. And then you'll be left with 2 of the green shapes. Now we're adding a banner with each person's name onto the front of each wreath design. So you're going to do exactly the same with a card template for your banner and do that out of white felt. And again, we need 2 of those. So we're almost ready to assemble our decoration, but if you're choosing to sew on some sequins or some beads, this is the time to do it. It'll be much easier to stitch to the front of the wreath when they're not joined together than when they're padded out with the stuffing inside. However, we're not going to stitch our decorations on. On our one, we have some little jewels that are glued on. So we are just going to start by stitching the 2 green reeds together with a blanket stitch. So we've lined up both pieces of felt and that we're ready to attach them to each other now. Now we're going to sew all the way around. You could just use some sort of glue if you don't want to sew it. First of all, we're going to sew all the way around the inside, and then we'll move on to the outside and sew most of the way around, leaving a gap of maybe about 1 inch, and that's where we're going to put our stuffing in to fill out the wreath. If you are sewing, you can use whatever stitch you're comfortable with, just make sure it's well attached, and if it's a visible stitch, just try and make it as neat as possible, although this is a handmade item, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So our 2 pieces of green felt are now attached all the way around the middle and most of the way around the outside. We have left a small gap here, and this is where we're now going to use the stuffing and try and push small pieces of stuffing all the way around to fill the entire circular wreath. Now, to do this, it might be useful to get a pencil or a pen and use the non-writing side or some sort of dowel just to help ease the stuffing round, as it'll need some assistance to get in all the space. And remembering to leave the extra thread you've got attached so we can close this up once the wreath is stuffed. Managed to now stuff the wreath all the way round, so the final thing to do for this stage is to then sew up the remaining gap. But before we do that, you want your guest to be able to hang your decoration up once it's finished. So we've just got some red and white twine here, folded it in half and just knotted the end just to keep it a bit more contained, and we're going to slot that into the gap and just hold it in place and sew up around it so it's secured within the wreath. We've finished with the wreath part of the decoration for now, and now we're going to move on to the banner. So if you remember, we've got two identical shapes and we're going to stitch the name of your guess onto the front part of the thing. Now, you might want to just freehand this and go straight into stitching, but I like just to roughly draft the name with a pencil, and this will be covered by the stitching later on. That just helps with the spacing of the lettering, and so I know where I'm going to stitch when I actually do it. We're going to use a contrasting red thread for the name, and just one. If you're using embroidery thread like this, it's made up of 6 different threads, and for the writing we're just going to use one of these, so it's quite narrow, it's not too chunky. So I just lightly wrote the name out in pencil, and these are the lines I'm going to use to just do a simple stitch to go over those lines to create your name of the guest. And the good thing about this is the back doesn't need to be particularly neat, because we're going to add another layer of the white banner shape, which will hide the back, so don't worry if it goes a little bit messy. And once you're happy with the name, you can just finish this thread off at the back. See what I mean about a messy back? Just to make sure it doesn't come loose once you finish your decoration. And the final bit of sewing we're going to do is with some white thread this time, take your other piece of white felt, sandwich them together, cut off this excess string, sandwich them together, and we're just going to attach them together in the same way as we did with the green wreath, just along the top and the bottom, just to make sure they're secure. And there we have it, our little banner that is going to sit on the Christmas wreath. So that's the last bit of sewing we're going to do. Now all we need to do is put this on and decorate, and for that we'll be using the hot glue gun. One completed Christmas wreath felt tree decoration place setting.